day guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Caitlin Charisse. I'm an indie romance author writing mostly dark romance, a little bit of dystopian, a lot of fun stuff. And as somebody who has a literary agent and is trying to be traditionally published as well, this is a pretty important topic, and that is publishing deals. What romance publishing deals have been announced in January 2026? You can find all these over on Publishers Marketplace, and this is an invaluable tool for writers, especially if you want to be traditionally published. I'm going to be going over what publishers had deals in January, what agents were making the deals in January, and most importantly, what were the tropes that were picked up and what kinds of stories are coming out that personally I'm really excited to read. January was a huge month for announcements in romance deals. There were 42 deals announced in the romance section in Publishers Marketplace. That is massive. I've done some comparison to previous months, and normally it was like within the 20 to 30 range typically. Over 40 deals were announced in January. Now that doesn't mean the deals were made in January. What that means is typically those deals were made like 4 to 6 months ago. So we're talking deals made from like June to like August, September of last year for the most part. And now they've actually finalized the contracts, prepared everything, and are announcing it on Publishers Marketplace. So these weren't January deals made. In fact, January is typically a pretty dead month in publishing. So in 4 to 6 months, we're going to see that sort of a ripple effect down, and it's going to look like there are fewer deals made because publishing tends to slow down in December and January. A lot of people will go on holiday. So there were 22 publishers that actually made deals in January, and these were the biggest ones. Harlequin and Montlake both had 6 romance book deals. Publishers who made deals on 3 books were Berkeley, Bantam Dell, and Podium Publishing, which I haven't heard that much about. This is a pretty new name that's coming up, Podium, but it's come up 3 times in the month of January's deals, so not bad. And then quite a few had 2 of them. So we had AKA Story, Alcove Press, Olive Press, Bloom Books, Kensington, and Cosmo Reads. And then this is the list of publishers who had 1 deal out in January. So which publishers had the biggest book deals? And if you ever go on Publishers Marketplace, it gives you a sort of code as to what those deals fell into as far as the numbers range. So a major deal is like the biggest you can get. We're talking $500,000 or more for that book deal. Significant is $250,000 to about $500,000, and then they trickle down from there. So there was 1 major deal, and that was from Bloom Books, and it was a 4-book deal, which means that that author's been contracted to write 4 books for $500,000 or more, which is insane. That is like every writer's dream deal. 2 publishers had significant deals. One of them was AKA Story, which again is not a name that I've seen come up quite often. This might be a newer publisher. This could be a newer imprint at a pretty big publisher. I do have to look into that a little bit more. But AKA Story had a significant 3-book deal, which again, this is for $250,000 or more. And Montlake also had a significant deal. It was a 3-book deal, again, $250,000 or more. So it's still a pretty big range, but that is a phenomenal deal for a writer. So we're going to get into the agents that made all these deals in January, but which were the agents that landed those big 3 deals? So the Bloom Books major deal, and I'm sorry, I'm not great at pronouncing names, was Haley Heidemann at WME. So if they end up being open to submissions, you know that they can make a deal. The AKA significant deal was Stephen Barbara at Inkwell Management, and the Montlake significant deal was Lauren Spieler at Folio Literary Management. Now these were the other literary agents. I will mention if there's something that like jumps out, if they say like, oh, it was a nice deal or it was a 2-book deal. Some contracts did not have agents. Some went directly between the publisher and the author, so that's why there's going to be a lower number of agents than there are publishers. Lashira Lee at SBR had a nice deal on 2 different contracts, so 2 deals in January. Paige Turlip at Starling Literary and Media, Jessica Alvarez at Bookends. Sherry Wilson at Gardner Literary had a nice deal. James McGowan at Bookends, which if you watch their YouTube channel, I'm surprised that James actually has a romance deal because he is not typically a romance agent. So that was very surprising for me to see. Taylor Haggerty at Root Literary. Sarah Megabo at Megabo Literary Agency had a very nice deal in a preempt. Preempt means that it was just a one-on-one deal with the publisher. The publisher said, I really want this. This is the best offer I can make you, but you have to take the deal off the table for anybody else. And they agreed to it. Lucine Diver at the Knight Agency, Helen Breitweiser at Cornerstone Literary, Adam Cromie at Movable Type Management. Now, Georgana Grinstead at Seymour Agency, she had like the most incredible month out of all of these agents. She had 3 deals. All of them were 6-figure deals. There was a 3-book deal, a 5-book deal, and a 2-book deal. Incredible. Pete Knapp at Park Feinenbauer Literary Management went to auction in a 2-book deal. Joanne Mackenzie at Nelson Literary had a very nice 2-book deal. Stacy Testa at Writer's House. Eric Smith at Neighborhood Literary had a preempt 2-book deal. Nikki Groom at SBR Media had a 6-figure 4-book deal. Insane. Claire Harris at Helm Literary had a 2-book deal, as did Tricia Skinner at Fuse Literary, a 2-book deal. There's Kevin Lyne at Marshall Lyne Literary Agency. Haley Steed at Janklow and Nesbitt, their contract went to auction. Jade Kavanaugh at Darley Anderson had a preempt 2-book deal. Kimberly Bauer at Parker Feinenbauer Literary Management had a 4-book deal. Jill Marshall at Marshall Lyne Literary Agency had a 3-book deal and a 2-book deal. Jennifer Uden at Laura Dale Literary Agency had a 3-book deal. Mia Vitale and Sarah Pasick at Parker Feinenbauer Literary Management. Hannah Todd while at Madeline Milburn Literary Agency. Courtney Miller Callahan at Hadspun Literary was in an exclusive submission, and Ariel Friedman at UTA. So those are all the agents that were included in these deal announcements. Now, as somebody who writes a romance and is interested in these romance trends, one thing that stands out more in this genre than any other are authors who are self-published and then those books get picked up to be traditionally published. Those deals are huge. They are a massive buzz whenever this happens, and it's happening more and more frequently through TikTok and Instagram, people getting more followers, which makes these books more popular. These books become huge, and obviously those are tried and true, so publishers are happy to snap those up pretty quick. In fact, I don't know if you can see, but over here, this book is really, really fun to read, Rook and Rebel by Kate Crew. This just came out a couple of weeks ago, and this was a self-published book. She did the audiobook and whatnot on her own, and then this was picked up traditionally and was just re-released through that traditional publisher. This is becoming more and more common. In fact, I have quite a few books on my shelf that went through this. So in January, there were 3. One was Bravta by T.J. McGuire, originally self-published to Chelsea Variel at Podium Publishing in an exclusive submission in a 5-book deal. Next was Candy Steiner's Hot Mess, an angsty enemies to lovers between 2 polar opposites who become the hottest and most unhinged couple on a reality dating show, dangling $250,000 if they could fake it till the end, and their growing mutual attraction that is disrupted as producers unleash both of their exes into the fray. That's so fun. Oh my god, that's going to be so much fun once that re-releases. And Make Me Hate You, a previously self-titled book. And then we have Hannah Bonham Young's Set the Record Straight, a previously self-published sapphic holiday novella was sold to Bantam Dell. So this is probably the biggest part of the video. If you're somebody who is planning on traditionally publishing, you're getting ready, your book is pretty polished at this point, whether you have an agent or you're going to start querying soon. These are the tropes that came up time and time again, how many times they came up. This is like the big alarm bell, what you want to pay attention to, because this will tell you what editors were really interested in buying 4 to 6 months ago. So the most common trope that came up time and time again, it came up 7 times, was small town. Small town romance is so popular. It was incredibly popular 4 to 6 months ago, clearly, and that was pretty consistent even in the months back. Small town came up over and over again, so if you have a small town romance, that's a good trope to be in right now. 6 times second chance romance came up. Second chance again, widely popular. I love a good second chance romance. Those are so fun. They are so sweet. I love a good second chance. Number 5 is cowboy romance, western romance. Not my thing. If that is your thing and you've been writing in that genre, just know that that is what editors were looking for 4 to 6 months ago, and there could still be editors looking for that. That doesn't mean that, okay, this was 4 to 6 months ago, it's totally dead. Just something to be mindful of, that this was really, really big, like 4 to 6 months ago, especially when, like, is it Elsie Silver or Elise Silver? Those books were really trending over on TikTok. Also, this one wasn't like a trope, but I thought this was interesting. Books where the setting was clearly outside of the US. Now, that doesn't mean that all of the other books were set in the US. It's just that clearly in that little blurb that they give you to tell you what the book's about, those books clearly were not set in the US. So 5 of those were listed, which I thought was interesting. So I separated holiday romance from Christmas romance because there are some announcements that specifically separated the two. And obviously not all holiday romances are Christmas. There are plenty of holidays that happen around the end of the year as well. And they could be talking about holidays throughout the year. So Christmas romance was 3, but holiday romance was 4. Another popular trope, marriage of convenience. Gotta love a good marriage of convenience trope, especially if they have that my wife trope in it. Oh my god, so good. 4 of them had that trope. 3 of them mentioned dark romance specifically. 3 of them were historical romance that took place kind of at different times of the year. One really interesting one was set in like a twisted version of the 1920s. We will get to that announcement in a little bit. That one was fun. And sapphic romance also came up 3 times, which I did separate between the deals that announced sapphic romance, gay romance, and queer romance. There were 2 medical romances. Both of them were like the traditional Harlequin style books. So that came up twice. Twice there were references to detectives. So romantic suspense, romantic thriller-esque, that sort of blend between the genres is getting really popular. So I'm expecting in the next few months to see a slight uptick in things like thrillers and suspense and detective work. Fake dating, who doesn't love a good fake dating trope? That came up twice, as did found family, which is something that you see not as often referenced in romance books. Even if there is found family, that's not always a trope that was thrown out there a lot, but that was referenced twice in these blurbs. Also, Grumpy Sunshine, if you love that trope, that's in 2 of these, as was Love Triangle. Now, this isn't necessarily a trope, but this came up twice as like a sort of background setting, which I thought was fun. Reality TV. In 2 of these, reality TV is the backdrop. Now, this is the list of all the tropes that were referenced just once. Now, that doesn't mean that the other stories don't have these tropes as well. It's just, again, this was only what was put in the actual blurbs in these deal announcements. And I had to include this. I love these, the deals that I am most excited for and cannot wait to read. The Paris Proposal by Kristen Gordon Chauder and Aaron Baldwin. Pitched as Chaudler's real-life story about a Filipino-American woman on a work visa in Paris who devises a scheme to marry a Frenchman to extend her stay at the Louvre, but who gets more than she bargained for when sparks fly as her type A ambition and her fake husband's laissez-faire ways collide against the stunning backdrop of the City of Love and his family's vineyard in the south of France. So as somebody who's in an international relationship, I'm American, my husband's Australian, I love seeing these kind of like visa twists. I think they're so funny. Because as somebody who goes through it, all I could think of is, oh my god, the paperwork made an absolute nightmare. So it was fun to actually see like a fun, exciting little twist on these kinds of stories. Crash Course by Piper Lawson. I love a good F1 romance. So this is Maxton Hall meets Drive to Survive, set in an elite F1 academy where ambition, family secrets, and forbidden love collide. You know there's going to be a crash. It's a Formula One romance. There's got to be a crash. This is the 1920s one I was talking about, Spellstruck by Martha Waters. The owner of a speakeasy supplying magical drinks in an alternative 1920s London and an enforcer on the ban of magic must team up when potions go awry, proving that chemistry isn't just for cocktails. I love it. It's going to be so fun. I cannot wait. I love a good like magical twist. Now, if you want like a dystopian romance, this one sounds so interesting and I cannot wait to see how the author pulled this off. Be a Man by Lindsay Straub. A standalone love story between a man who's destined for death and a woman who wants to spare his life, set in a world where men are born in jail and must earn their way out. Oh my god, that sounds so good. Why? I cannot. I need it now. Immediate TBR. And the last one is Be My Alibi by Taylor Robinson. Pitched as Gilmore Girls meets Scream, a slasher love story between a true crime podcaster and the serial killer she hires to make her famous during their small town fall festival. Oh my god, it sounds so good. It's giving Tourist Season by Bryn Weaver vibes, and I'm not mad at it. So those were the romance deals that were announced in January 2026 over on Publishers Marketplace. If you guys have any questions, let me know down below. Also, I will tag her just as like a little inspirational thing. This idea came off of Lindsay Puckett. She does quarterly deals, but through middle grade and YA. She goes so much more in depth than I do. Like, oh my god, her videos, the graphs are absolutely mind-blowing. Slightly inspired by that, but I thought that this would be really good to do monthly because romance moves so quickly. When it comes to trends and tropes, there is so much happening that I feel like doing these monthly is really going to give you guys a better scope and a better insight as to what is actually happening in the market. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. It really does help me. It helps support this channel. It helps boost these videos in the algorithm. And I'm already looking forward to the February video. That's it for this video, guys. I hope you liked it, and I will see you all in my next one.